Okay, in this video lesson, what we're going to do is take a look at how we can modify our code to add sprite speed control. This is really important to give the game the little extra feel, make it a little more challenging.
Yeah, definitely.
Right now, our enemies and our fireball, they all update. It's kind of like in sync. They all update at the exact same time, so all enemies are moving the exact same speed every level.
It looks kind of stagnant as well.
Yeah, it does. So what we want to do is enhance this in such a way that we can tell each sprite when it can update. Basically, give it the ability to update at a different time from other sprites. And by setting this up, it allows us to make our evil monkeys get faster and faster with each new level that we advance into.
Exactly.
So that's pretty cool. So the things that we're going to be doing in this lesson, first of all, we're going to be updating our sprite header, of course, to include some new functionalities, functions we need, the ability to set a sprite speed, the ability, of course, to set the current time, and to update the sprite as well. And some new variables, Joel?
Basically, we have our delay, which basically just says the amount of delay between each update.
Yeah, once it updates, how long are we going to delay before we're allowed to update?
Exactly, and this is in milliseconds.
That's right.
Last time, this holds the last time in milliseconds that we updated ourselves.
It was updated.
And basically, the update sprite function is going to, well, the set current time function is going to check between the last time and the time that's currently the current time and the last time that we updated, and check to see if that's greater than delay. If it is, then we're going to set bUpdate sprite to true, which says, okay, we do in fact want to update our sprite. And the update sprite function is going to return a true or false value, whatever is inside bUpdate sprite.
Right. So once we've prototyped and set up our variables, then we're just going to come down here and implement the new functionality and initialize the variables in the constructor as well. Set speed, set current time, and update sprite. From there, we'll go ahead and update the level.h to implement the time changes. We need to modify add enemies because now we have a speed to worry about, and update as well.
Yep.
From there, set the overall game loop speed, because now, before the game loop, it was the speed that our sprites updated.
Yeah.
Now we can actually make the game loop a whole lot faster.
Right, and then everyone else can update at their own leisure, whatever they want to update at.
Right.
Oh, well, we'll be setting
We'll set it, but it's still nice that we can now have a game loop that's a lot faster.
Yeah. So
we could handle doing more things if we wanted to.
Right, we can even make missiles extremely fast. I mean, if you wanted to, you could add an extra feature, a power-up, so that the missiles are faster or the enemies go faster or whatever.
Exactly.
And that's just a whole lot more control to the programmer.
That's right. And then finally, in the very end, we're going to finish up with appframe.cpp after we set the overall game loop speed with modifying update and add enemies. And that's about it. So by the time we get to the end, we should be able to see that we have control over the sprite speed and that we can make the monster speed up with each level.
Exactly. So let's go back over into .NET and let's go to our Sprite.h file. As we said, that's what we're going to look at first. And let's just scroll down here just a little bit. The first thing is the function prototypes. So we're going to have our set speed function. It does not need to return any values, but we're going to pass it a value new speed. Now the speed is basically going to be something that's between 0 and 100. 0 is the slowest speed and 100 is uber fast.
Right.
And the next one is going to be void set current time, and we're going to pass it the current time, and it's going to update the variable that we were talking about before, bUpdate sprite, to say whether or not we want to update the sprite.
Right.
And just kind of reiterating, just so you all understand what we're doing. I can't believe I just said y'all. That's terrible.
bUpdate sprite.
This is going to be the
bool update sprite.
And it's going to return exactly what you're saying, the bUpdate sprite.
Right.
And now down here in our variables here, well, we're just going to add those three functions. So the three variables. The first one is int delay. And we're also going to have our last time variable, which is going to be a long.
And finally the bUpdate sprite, which we'll just go ahead and start it out.
Oh,
yeah, it's bull.
bUpdate sprite. And with those functions and variables declared, let's go back over into our Sprite.cpp for the first time.
Initialize and define.
We're going to give it a default speed of 80, which is actually not too bad, quite fast, and which basically says between 80 millisecond delays for it to update. Last time, we'll just set that to 0. And finally, we'll set bUpdate sprite
to false for now.
Yeah, just so that we can know exactly what it's at the beginning of our game.
Right.
So let's go down to the very bottom and add these new functions that we've just created. So if you look here, of course, we have our update sprite, our set speed, and set current time. So let's just copy all of these function definitions and take out the middle guys just to make it a little bit easier. And we'll have sprite : to make it recognize what it is, and let's just put these guys in here. Now let's start declaring these actual functions. Now, all setSpeed needs to do is basically say, okay, setSpeed needs to take the speed that is passed to us and convert it into a delay.
That's all. Yeah, that's all we're doing, because in the end, it's just basically what we're looking at is time minus the last time. If that's greater than the delay,
right?
Okay, that's
so
we're going to need to update our sprites.
Yeah. So inside of we're going to say delay. Remember, delay sets the amount of time between each update.
Right.
But speed is a value between 0 and 100, so that's not a direct correlation. So we're going to have to convert the value a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take 200 minus the new speed divided by 100.0f, and what that does is it converts it, it casts it to a floating point value. So since new speed we assume is going to be a value between 0 and 100, when we take new speed divided by 100, we're going to get a value between 0 and 1. We're then going to multiply that value by 200. So let's say we get a value of 0 passed into us. So we're going to get 0 divided by 100, so that's going to give us a value of 0 multiplied by 200, but since we have 200 minus 0, that means we're going to get a delay of 200.
Right.
So that's exactly what we want, since 200 means we're going to get a really slow update of our sprites.
That's right.
So that's what's going on there. So the max delay is going to be 200, the minimum delay is going to be 0. So there we go. Now what we're going to do is do our, well, actually, let me kind of take advantage of the fact that I already have them here. So here we have our set current time. This is just going to take the time that's passed into us, minus it by the last time, and make sure that's greater than delay. If it is, all we need to do is update our last time to say, okay, now we've updated our sprite, and set bUpdateSprite, that Boolean value, to true. Well, that's all there is to it. And finally, bUpdateSprite, well, the updateSprite function, what do we want to do? Simply return what's in bUpdateSprite.
Right.
But we want to, in updateSprite function, actually set bUpdateSprite to false. So let's first store the value. So bool out equals bUpdateSprite. This is the value that we're going to actually return to the user, whoever called this function. And set bUpdateSprite equal to false, and let's just return out. Simple enough.
Looks good.
So that's all there is to that. Let's go back to context just so we can see where exactly we're at now. And we've just implemented all of this here. So we're exactly halfway done with everything.
Very nice.
So now we need to go to the level.h to implement the different time changes. Now this is fairly simple. It's not that hard. We just need to update enemies and update the update function.
Right.
So let's go back over to here. And if I'm talking too fast, just stop me. So let's go to enemy.h. Well, enemy.h? What am I thinking?
level.h.
Level.h. That's a better idea. So let's go down to update right here.
There we go.
And instead of just passing a void, we're going to pass it a long time. It's a long time. And under enemies, we'll just change this to give it a speed as well. So basically, we're going to pass how fast do you want the new enemies to be going. And under update, we want to update the functions to call set current time, etc.
Right.
So with those small changes, let's go over to level.cpp and make a few simple changes so that the speed actually works with this. So let's go down to our update function here, and notice that every time the level update function is called, we directly update the sprite.
Right.
And what we're changing here is so that we first, remember, iter is the current person that we're updating, the sprite.
As we go through each sprite.
And this does include our enemies and fireballs. All of this is within this loop. So we're going to set the current time to time, which is going to be passed into us. So let's not forget to change this to long time. And then we're going to have a simple if statement that says if the iter, the current sprite we're working with, says to update the sprite, simply update the sprite. That's all there is to it.
That's it. We've now made each sprite stand on its own when it comes to time to update or not.
Exactly. And then under add enemies, we simply want to make this so that it has another inSpeed argument. And right over here, we simply set, okay, we've created a new enemy. Now set speed. Excuse me.
There you go. You can do it, Joel.
Yeah, I know. Set speed to equal speed.
Right.
So that's everything. If we go back into context, look at this. We've just updated this, and all we need to do now is set overall game speed in appFrame.cpp and simply modify all uses of update and add enemies. So let's go back over to here, And let's go to the appframe.cpp. And notice the update time is 150 milliseconds right now.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So let's change this down to something like 20. And if we ran it right before we made all these changes, everyone would just run extremely fast now. So let's go down to our new game here. So on new. And by default, add enemies is now just not passing anything for the second one. Let's give it a value, a delay. Let's set this to 5. Okay. Let's just say that's the amount of delay, the speed for the enemies that are added. And the other thing is we go down all the way down to our update game. And when we add enemies, let's make it so that the enemies get faster over time.
Right.
So let's create a new temporary variable just like we did with the num enemies. And we'll call this new speed. And we'll set this to the power of, so 2 to the something power. And the current level.
So each level, it's going to get faster, faster, and faster.
So let's do some basic math here. The first level is going to be 2. The second one's going to be 4. Then 8.
Power of 2.
And
2,
then
3.
And then
4.
So on.
So it's not going to be long. What is it? Somewhere around like level 7 or so?
And then it's going to
max speed?
Yep, exactly.
You're just hosed.
So let's actually check to see if new speed is greater. If it's greater than 100, simply set new speed to 100. Now we could have done this test inside of the set speed, but this will work fine. So set speed equal to 100. Awesome. Now we just pass this new speed.
New speed.
Into dot. That's a new operation. Set it to new speed. Now finally, remember we have the update function. Make sure that this passes the newest speed. Now remember, look what we did all the way in the constructor here. Don't want to get you guys too confused, but remember we set the random number generator to use the current time that was passed to us. So we can just take this value, which gets the elapsed time, and remember we reset it so it's the current time since the program has started. Go back down to update game and simply paste this guy in here, and we're done.
Very cool.
One other thing that I would like to add, however, is let's go to the level.h just real quick here, and let's give the add enemies here a default speed, just so that if we don't want to have to plug something in, we can. So let's just set that to equal to 5. Okay, with that, if I didn't make any typos, everything should be working properly. Oh, one more thing is that power, that function is not found.
You need to use math.h now.
Exactly. So let's come over to here and just include math.h. Okay, so here we go.
Here we go.
And of course everything's the same. We create a new level. And look at these. These monsters are doing something really strange.
They walked around for a minute.
Okay, so we have a little bit of an issue here. Let me just go ahead and rebuild to make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be. Sometimes when you're doing this, you want to kind of rebuild everything so all the linking and everything is proper. That sounded really unprofessional, but you know.
Yeah.
So let's go. Try this out again. And as you can see,
they're a lot slower now.
They're a lot slower now. And I can kill them, and they can kill me. So it's just something I needed to rebuild. No worries there. And I can kill these guys, and
yeah.
And now they are
now
in
they're
fact
a little
faster.
Yeah, you can see it.
Let's just make it so that we can do a little test demo here. What if I were to set the enemies for the new level to be extremely fast? Just so you guys can see that this does indeed work, and we're not, you know, joking around. So let's go to the on new function right here, and let's set the speed to 100. So that's the max number of speed we can have. There's going to be 0 delay. So if we run this. Check that out. They're just crazy
run
fast.
A little faster.
Yeah, no kidding. So, well, that's about it.
That's it. So yeah, now we've really enhanced the game quite a bit by allowing us to go in there and tell each sprite just how long it needs to delay before it updates.
Right.
And that's really nice. And now our monsters have been set up, so our evil monkeys have been set up so that as each level passes, they get faster and faster. So with that, that's going to wrap up this lesson. Thanks a lot.